want to say Carnival to everybody here today. Welcome to our study of IFA, the sacred religion of our ancestors. I've invited a special guest today to come in to share with us the cosmology of our people. Everybody has a creation story, but we're not telling our story. We're so busy embracing everybody else's story, but we're not embracing our story. Brother Walter, let the brother cleanse you over there. So I invited Chief Wyoming. He can tell you more about himself. Chief made many trips to Africa, studied. He is a certified chieftain, and he's also an Egungun priest. And when you deal with the ancestors, you need an Egungun priestess or a priest working with you to help you to better understand what is going on. Trying to get this thing set so we don't get all that feedback. The room's not that large. We're going to open up with our libation and our ancestral recognition prayer that we do to the ancestors. After I do that, then I'll do IFA is. After I do what IFA is, then I will introduce Chief Wyoming. And he will proceed to talk about the Yoruba cosmology, how it's important to us. But I want to say right now, we as Africans in America, or how you want to identify yourself, I say people of ebony hue, we are in the most strangest position now because the cosmos is counting on us to bring things back in balance. If you're not in balance, you can't bring nobody else back in balance. And we all need alignment. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to open up with a libation. We're going to offer, we'll be pouring offering light and incense to our ancestors, and we're pouring a libation. That's the candle, the incense. I told everybody before that when we do this, we light up a light or keep a candle burning to give them light. We offer incense to them to keep the way sweet and nice, and we pour libation. And we'll begin. My Petri Bishop will stand over here, and we're going to do this, and y'all can follow along. We're now prepared to do this. Only Tutu.
May the water be cool and refreshed.
Only Tutu.
May our road be and path be cool and refreshed.
Ili Tutu.
May our home house be cool and refreshed.
Ori Tutu.
May our head be cool and refreshed.
Guni Tutu.
May our ancestors' doom be cool and refreshed.
Tutu Laraye.
May come messenger precede all our prayers.
Ibesi Oshitura, Oshitura, Oshitura.
I pay homage and give praise to Ishu, Osatura.
Ibesi Ogun.
I pay homage and give praise to the ancestors of Ogun.
Ibesi Orisha.
I pay homage and give praise to the Orisha.
Ashe, 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 oh.
May it be so.
May it be so. Ashe. Ashe. Chief, don't you have the ancestral prayer? One share one. You have the ancestral prayer, Chief. If not, someone hand Chief the ancestral prayer. Petri Bey.
Got one?
Yeah. This we do, and I've been doing this across the country, and we're getting great reviews from it. What we'll do, I'll start it, and you follow in unison, all right? We will start now. Are you ready? Good. Here we go. I offer light and pour libation with respect and honor for all our ancestors, whose names I know and the ones we do not know, to uplift and liberate their souls in the name of Old Damari. For it is through the love and the will and the power of Damari that all souls are saved. Group.
Awful prayer
and protection
by the way of the
divine creator for those ancestral souls that are in darkness, forgotten or lost. Let the light I offer fade out the shadows of fear and guide them toward the arms of Old Damari.
I offer guidance to my ancestors by way of the guardian angel and the protector spirits, who by the power and honor of Damari will assist them in their greater acts of evolution. Let the latter offer be a beacon of hope and serve as an escape and protect the shield from the shadows of despair.
I offer love, compassion, and comfort
to those ancestral souls that are suffering and depressed.
Let the light I offer lead them from discord and the miseries of their souls to the sanctuary of Olodumare and the joys of heavenly bliss.
I offer healing by way of the supreme beings on all spiritual levels for those ancestors who were abused, afflicted, deceived, enslaved, hated, lonely, misguided, neglected, oppressed, pain, saddened, traumatized, and died tragically. Let the light I offer to the soul inspire clemency, liberation, faith, and love and harmony from today onward. Group.
I offer forgiveness to the ancestral souls that want to repent sincerely for the errors of their ways in both realms of life and death. Let this light guide them to the truth, enlightenment, and righteousness of Olodumare.
In addition, all forgiveness to the ancestors that committed wrong, that have set generation alive, us that are living in barrenness. And I forgive those ancestors whose past sins I've had to suffer as a result of their own nativity, ignorance, and inferior habits and traits. That the light I offer serve as a reminder for us in the living to acknowledge and to learn not to make the same mistakes as the ones who lived before us.
In every way, I forgive those ancestors who need it most, so that their souls will embrace positive gratification, a new and improved way of living in the spirit realm. That those souls will elevate in peace and awaken to eternal life, as Olodumare promised.
All together, we'll, in the name of Olodumare and through his mercy and blessings, let today be the beginning of a continual healing process for all my ancestral guides and release of all blocked and negative genetic energy patterns within the generational line, steadily healing each family member, including myself day to day, as you, the ancestors, heal on the other side. We ask you to forgive us as we have been, that we've been forgiven, and to help us to heal with free-flowing and positive energy for the better well-being of all concerned. And in Olodumare's name we pray, and may the light and power and peace of Olodumare be with us always, so it is spoken and so it will be. Ashe, 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 Ashe. Go to what IFA is. But have the paper. If you don't have it, you'll have it. Someone give him what IFA is. All right. This helps to eliminate certain things. IFA is. Someone to share if you have it with you. Chief nigga want to give Chief one when he comes in. We left Chief out. Thought I had enough of them. All right. IFA is number one. IFA is the divine messenger of Olodumare to mankind. You follow me?
Right.
Let us start. Now see IFA is, I'll call the number. IFA is number one.
IFA is
Louder.
IFA
Is the messenger of
the divine
Olodumare to mankind. Number two, IFA is the word of Olodumare. Number three, IFA transcends cultures and traditions of all things, man, animals, plants, rocks, water, wind, and fire. Number four, IFA is
explains the basis for the existence of all things, past, present, and future.
IFA is number five.
IFA prescribes the spiritual
Prescribes
solution to all problems.
Number six, IFA is
the first,
oldest, and trusted
spiritual of mankind.
Number seven, Orula, harbinger of the divine message of Olodumare, is thus the first and truest guardian of the universal secrets of existence. Number eight,
Maria in all things, spiritual and esoteric, is the deputy of Olodumare.
number nine,
All ritual worship and venerations are acceptable, provided they are subservient to the worship of Olodumare as outlined by
IFA religion.
number 10,
No guidelines or signposts to salvation can lead to the path of divine truth, except that outlined by Olodumare.
Ashe, Ashe. That's why we do, because it eliminates a lot of questions. You know, you find out, and that's why I brought Chief today to come along to help us to better understand some things. That is what? Those of us been in religion, we've been through various things, And one of the oldest stories been told is the Albanese story. We have a story that we need to link up to because we're now going into the third quarter this year. Many of you that was here earlier read what the Odu was for this year and what it was for us as African Americans in America. They told us we've got to reconnect to our ancestors. We got to be able to revenerate our ancestors. Because they're struggling up there because we're struggling down because there is no recognition. They're not giving any respect. They're not getting any light. They're not getting any food, no substance. So they're begging while we're begging down here to stop that, to get the help. We got to acknowledge them while they acknowledge us. It's time for us to know our story. And at this time, it's my pleasure to bring to the class, and then Baba Yashabiyah, Chief Yashabiyah, and he will tell you more about himself. Chief, we'll put you in your hands at this time.
Well, first of all, give thanks to all of the mighty and IFA for allowing me to be here today and to bring forward this. And glad everybody came, you know, this particular session. What I was asked to speak on today was a concept in human culture, a concept we call cosmology. Now, let me write this down for us. Cosmology. By definition, cosmology actually means science of the cosmos. How a people view the cosmic reality, that cosmic reality from creation to birth to death, how you view society, how you view nature, how you view the universe. It is important for African Americans to re-grasp how our ancestors viewed the universe. It's very, very important, all right? These stories that we were taught as young people growing up were the stories of another person's cosmology, Western cosmology, how we were to view the universe coming from Western culture. So they kind of threw us off a little bit, to say the least, all right? But thanks to the persistence of our ancestors, we're keeping up with it. And I've done this lecture a number of times in a number of different ways. And generally it comes out different every time. All right? But the only difference that comes out is structure and the need of what people need to hear. So as I go through this, you may see other things that have come out before. You may have heard some other things, but actually this is the same story. You know? All right, so cosmology, we understand, means science of the cosmos. How people view the universe, how African people view the universe, how Native American people view the universe. Everybody has a story, has stories of their cosmology. And one of the things in their story is the story of creation. Please have a seat, young lady. Yes. It's the story of creation. All right? Now, how many of you in here have read the Yoruba creation story? Have any of you read the Yoruba creation story? You have, huh?
I am in this book here.
Okay, that's the one in
EB.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Okay, can you find that story for us? You share it with us?
I think it's in the very beginning.
It should be. As a matter of fact, it's either in Ejogbe or either... yeah, maybe in Ejogbe. But as you're looking for that creation story, let me remind you of some things, all right? A creation story is a story. Simple as that. It's a story. So we don't need to try, we don't need to be confused. When you hear a story, it is a story. Don't confuse it with being the story. Okay? Because most cultures will tell you, well, this is the creation story. Well, do you know how many stories there are on this planet as relate to creation? Hmm?
Everyone
There
else.
are as many stories as there are cultures. Okay? There are as many stories as there are cultures. How many of you are familiar with the Adam and Eve story in this room?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's familiar with the Adam and Eve story, right? Okay. Do you know why you're familiar with the Adam and Eve story?
So we've been told.
Aha, that's it. That's all we've been taught. You know, the only story you were ever taught relative to creation was the Adam and Eve story. So, in our minds, in our consciousness, that's what we know as creation. All right? There are hundreds, literally thousands of stories, all right, that have nothing to do with Adam and Eve.
Nothing.
All right?
I said,
Let me share something with you. Adam and Eve is not the creation story. Adam and Eve is a creation story within the context of a particular dynasty. All right? That dynasty is about 8,000 years old that it started. According to most historians, the story of Adam and Eve that we know in Western culture is a derivative of the story of the creation that came out of Mesopotamia
I said,
or the early Babylon.
I said,
All right?
I said,
So it is a story that is a story off of another story. I once read a creation story that said, time never was when man was not.
I said,
So people ask me that question all the time. Okay, well, which one is the oldest, or which one is in the beginning? Well, that's not really relevant when you start to think about a real cosmology, and I'm going to show you why in just a minute. All right? It's not relevant because what is relevant is the dynastic period that you are in right now and the understanding that you're getting from that story relative to that dynastic period that you're in. So Adam and Eve was only relevant to those who were establishing this dynasty. Because in that story they put the attributes that would guide the consciousness of the people. All right?
I say,
Would guide that worldview. The creation stories are the stories that set the foundation for other ideological structure in a society.
I say,
So we were acquainted with the Adam and Eve story because we were setting up the Adamic dynasty, you know, or amending the Adamic dynasty. There's a book out by Zechariah Sitchin that talks about the Anunnaki, the Sumerians, one of the earliest cultures. In the Sumerian story, there's a story about Adam and Eve. But it's different than the Adam and Eve that we see in the story that we've been reading. The story that we've been reading is a story that was put back together again by those people about 325 AD. The Roman Emperor Constantine put this book back together. They called it a Bible. And in the Bible, they put a story, and that story was the story of Adam and Eve. The creation story was the story of Adam and Eve. All right? But that was a creation story in that particular Bible. Had nothing to do with Africans in the Western Hemisphere.
I say,
All right? Let me make that perfectly clear. Right? Adam and Eve had nothing to do with us.
I say,
Not at all. Our ancestors, when you study the realm of our ancestors we know came from West Africa.
I say,
The creation story in West Africa was not the creation by virtue of Adam and Eve. All right? So it had nothing to do with us. Hey, friend, how you doing, bro? All right? Had nothing to do with us. It only became relevant to us when our ancestors were introduced to religions such as Christianity and Islam. All right? Then that creation story became relevant because that was the creation story of those particular religious thoughts, those particular consciousness. So it became relevant to us because that was the only one we knew. And we needed to know one, so we kind of held on to it. I've even read different stories about Adam and Eve's story where we blackenized them and made them with nappy hair and stuff. And even Western culture went back to Adam and Eve and said that the first Adam and Eve must have been black. And that's because melanated people have always been on the planet, y'all. So we ain't got to trip on the African thing.
No.
All right? But I'm explaining this a little bit historical thing about this because we're going to get into the meat of cosmology. Cosmology is not just the idea of the creation story. Cosmology is also how you view the universe.
Ashe.
Okay? The creation story is only one aspect of it. Okay? And I would really enjoin all of you to really go ahead and study many creation stories. Study every creation story you can find.
Ashe.
There's a number of creation stories in Native American culture called the stories of Turtle Island.
Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah.
All right, Turtle Island. That's the island that we're on here now. That's this landmass that we're on here right now. The indigenous people called it Turtle Island.
Sure.
There's a creation story about Turtle Island. Mind you, it is a creation story. So treat it that way.
Ashe.
All right?
Ashe.
The creation story in the Yoruba, there are many different versions, first of all, of that story. You're going to read that story. If you read it in Ifism, how far? How much is it?
It's 251 pages.
This creation story?
Now the creation story it begins. It's several levels he goes through. You got the first inhabitation attempt, the second attempt, and each one go through. So it's pretty in depth.
It's pretty in depth. But let me give you just a brief story about the creation story.
Yeah,
you don't have to worry about the in depth.
It's really in depth.
Right.
Yeah.
The major one that we know of, the creation story that we know of, is the story of the coming to earth of Obatala.
Obatala.
By virtue of an iron chain. The story said that in the beginning, before things there existed upon the face of the waters. You know, just the clouds upon the face of the water. The earth had not formed yet. Land had not been made hard yet. It was all just the face of the waters. Olodomardis decided that dry land needed to be created. So he sent the arch divinity of Yoruba land, who at that time was definitely Obatala. Obatala was the god, the Orisha of creation. He gave Obatala a calabash of sand, a 5-toed chicken, and seeds from the palm tree, and told him to go down and gave him the mission to come to earth and create dry land. So Obatala descended down the chain. When he got upon the face of the waters, he poured the sand upon the ground. After pouring the sand upon the ground, he placed the chicken in the sand, and the chicken scratched at the sand and scratched the sand all around and spread the dry land out. After the dry land had been spreaded out, he then took the seeds of the coconut tree, of the palm tree seeds, and he planted them. And this became the first palm tree. It was our tree of life. You're familiar, like in the Hebrew culture, they have the tree of life. In the European culture, Adam and Eve story, they have the tree of the good and evil that Adam and Eve ate the apple off of, right? Okay? Where in our story, we have our own tree of life. It's the palm tree. And there were 16 branches to this palm tree. These 16 branches were the 16 Odu Ifa, the 16 containers of wisdom and knowledge and information. So this creation story is a creation story that is more in tune to our understanding of how creation happened. Once you start to study Orisha, you start to study the cosmology, you start to really understand what the Orisha and what these gods were about. Obatala was the force in the universe that was creativity. Okay? So when you talk about Obatala now, the Orisha Obatala, and we personify this Orisha, remember that this was a natural force in nature. All right? The gods, our ancestral representations were natural forces in nature. And that's how we related to them. All right? Not so much personified like the Greek gods that we know of. All right? So that's the creation story. Now, let's go into cosmology a little bit differently. Science of the cosmos. Western science tells us that everything began how? They call it what?
Big Bang.
The Big Bang.
Big Bang.
The Big Bang, right. And they say from the Big Bang, everything emanated out from one central point in the universe, right?
That's it.
Then, as everything started to go outward, what was created on Earth was created in the microcosm of what Earth was about. Okay? Now, how do we view the universe? Our ancient ancestors had these same kinds of stories. The Egyptians, the Yoruba, the Dogon, had these same kinds of stories about the universe. So, from a cosmological structure standpoint, here's what we're looking at. The universe. Or we could say just the world. Our world. Because most of our cultures have cosmologies that begin basically with the understanding of the world, and the world is a microcosm of the macrocosm. Okay, so you don't have to say, well, the universe of universes and universes. Once you have the microcosm of the macrocosm, then you know that that's the pattern. The ancient Egyptians taught us, in the Hermetic principles, taught us the principles of duality. Is that once creation came into being, it became dual. But here we go. Before creation came into being, there was the concept of Olorun. Olorun. Olorun is the concept of the Creator that is beyond definition.
Beyond definition.
That is beyond definition. Olorun. As a matter of fact, literally the word means owner of heaven, or said to mean owner of heaven. But by definition, the word has no definition. You cannot describe this attribute of the Creator.
I say.
It is only a word that describes that you cannot describe it.
I say.
All right? So different than the Christian God, the moment in Christianity you say God, He, you've just done what? Described.
Yeah, you described.
You described the God.
Identified.
You gave it a description.
Yeah.
God, He. Olorun is beyond God, He. All right? Olorun is the owner of heaven. It's similar to the concept in Oriental culture. They say, the book of the Tao says, the Tao
I say.
that can be named is not the eternal Tao.
Yeah, I say.
All right? The Tao can be named is not the eternal Tao. And that word that y'all see when you're reading Chinese text is spelled T-A-O. It's not Tao. It's pronounced Tao. Okay? The Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. The eternal Tao in a cosmology is really understandable because in the mind of the humans, in the mind of most human cultures, there's always something that is beyond your understanding. No matter how wise you are, you have to have something that is beyond.
I say.
That's what makes the universe the universe. The universe is a part of universes. And the ancients all had a concept in their cosmology of that which was beyond definition, that which was beyond. In the Yoruba, we call it Olorun. All right?
I say.
Y'all travel with me now. We're going to go a little bit further in this cosmology. The next level of understanding of what the concept of God or the Creator was, in the Yoruba, we call it what? Olodumare. Now, Olodumare is the concept of God, all right, similar to every other concept of God in every other culture, that says this is the manifestation of. In other words, they say that everything in the universe that is created is the God. All right? Olodumare is the essence of everything. Olodumare is the manifestation of everything. Olodumare manifests everything. Olodumare is manifest as everything. You get me? Huh? You see, in the Yoruba culture, there is no separation. Or they see separation as a part of a whole as opposed to separation being separate entities. So Olodumare is the manifest God. Now you can bring into the reality of God, he and she, or whatever you want to work with it on. But generally in the Yoruba, they say Olodumare. They don't say Olodumare, he or she. They would say Olodumare, he and she, or he, she. In the Dogon culture, the Nomo were hermaphrodites. You know what hermaphrodites are?
Yeah.
What are hermaphrodites?
Somebody with both male and female parts.
Aha, we got a scholar in the room. Good. Shit. The gods were male and female. There was no separation between the two. At one time in our ancient history, we viewed things in that way. We viewed that everything had male and female attributes. Even to this day, we still view things in that way. You have to view it that way because you are a living being, and if you are a living being, that means the flux of life is going on inside of you, and as we go through this cosmology structure thing I'm talking about here, you're going to understand why you have to have male qualities and female qualities in order to have life. Okay? If you don't have both qualities, you're not going to have life. The life force is not going to be there. I'm sure some scientists in the room know the fact that you don't get no electricity with just a positive charge. Hmm? You have to have what? A negative charge. Right? You have to have the two opposites together. The opposite, you have to have the positive charge and the negative charge to get light. You can't put a negative charge with another negative charge and get nothing. You can't put a positive charge with another positive charge and get light. You can't get it. It don't happen. You have to put the positive and the negative together. So Olodumare is the male and female principle in the universe, manifest. Olodumare is God. You know, in the same sense in Christianity when they say, the Lord, our Father, which art in heaven, God, which in this, the God, the God. All right? So now we got the Creator beyond knowing, the concept of the Creator beyond knowing, and now we got the known God, the known Creator. One being, one reality. And in this cosmology, it is represented by the circle. The complete circle, 360 degrees of knowledge, wisdom, everything. That's who we got. That's who God is. God is the totality of everything. You see? And this is how the African viewed his reality. Now, there's a prayer that we pray in Ifa. It says, Olodumare ajuba, Orumila ileri pi, ibikeji Olodumare. Ileri pi means witness of faith. Orumila was witness of faith. Second to Olodumare. So right under this one, we have Orumila. Now, everybody knows what Orumila is about. Orumila is also interchangeable with the name we call, say, is what? Ifa. Okay? Ifa and Orumila are interchangeable words. Orumila is said to be the prophet himself. Ifa is the system. But in our culture, they're both interchangeable. So if somebody tell you, say, well, I'm talking about Ifa, they may be talking about the prophet, they may be talking about the system itself. They're one and the same anyway. All right? But that is the second to Olodumare. Second to Olodumare is Orumila. Now, the Yoruba view the universe the same way most people view the universe. They view the universe as an above and a below. The concept of above is called what? In Europe it's called Orun. or room may be similar to heaven, all right? But I get you, the African Orun is not the Christian heaven. So don't get yourselves confused, all right? Orun is closer to the understanding, like Native American culture, they call it the abode of the ancestors.
The abode of the ancestors.
And I'm going to show you why they could call it that in just a minute. The abode of the gods is Orun. Orun is the spiritual realm. All right, Orun is the metaphysical realm. So Orun is not necessarily just some place with some clouds and you're going to hang around and play harps. You know?
That's it.
Orun is the abode of the ancestors, the abode of the gods, the metaphysical realm. Above Orun, on the lower level, below, it's called Aiye.
Aiye.
Can you say that? Aiye.
Aiye.
Aiye is the world.
The world.
Loosely interpreted as the world. The manifest world. All right? Everything you see here is Aiye, is in the world. According to the Yoruba. Now we're in the Yoruba cosmology now. We're studying how our ancient ancestors viewed the universe. We've come from Olodumare, but we've come from Olorun, to Olodumare, to Orunmila, now to Orun, and now to the earth. All right? So the Yoruba, like other ancient people, saw the world in its duality. Remember, I said earlier that when things start to manifest, you start to see everything start manifesting dual. You know, there's a higher and there's a lower. You see? The higher realm, we always call it Orun. We call it the heavens. There's a story, there's a particular movie I would enjoin you to watch. It's called Black Robe.
Black
So,
Robe.
write it down. Those of you who got internet, you can go online and watch this movie called Black Robe. It is the story of the Jesuit priesthood. When they came to America, they were trying to transform or educate the Iroquois Indians.
Okay.
All right? And they wore these long black robes, and the Native Americans used to always look at them and they called them, say, oh, that's Black Robe. You know? But there's a particular scene in that movie that is very, very enlightening. There's a discussion between Black Robe, one of the Jesuit priests, right, and one of the Native Iroquois. There's a discussion between the two. And as you know, the Jesuit were always, like all Christians, they were always pushing their idea on everybody else. Oh, you got to repent and go and come and make Jesus come into your heart, and then you don't worry, you don't have to worry about nothing, you will die and go to heaven in Jesus' name. You got to do that, right? That's what the Jesuit was pushing on the native culture, right? So one evening, they were sitting by the campsite discussing their cosmology. And the native guy asked Black Robe, he says, hey, Black Robe, you said we're going to accept your Jesus and go to this heaven, right? He said, oh, yes, you must do this. You must repent your sins and go to heaven in Jesus' name, you know, so that you will live forever. He says, tell you what. He said, in your Christian heaven, can we smoke our peace pipes, our tobacco? He said, oh, no, no, no. You will not need of those things in the heavens. You will not need of those things. All you'll need is God. Native brother looked at the other native brother and said, you know about this Black Robe's heaven, you know? Can't smoke tobacco. And to the Native American in his culture, in his concept of Orun, in their concept of the heavens, to be able to smoke tobacco was a height. It was a beautiful thing. So they knew that their heaven had where you could smoke much tobacco as you want. Then he asked him, he says, hey, Black Robe, in your heaven, when we accept this Jesus and go through all of that, he says, can you have your woman and kind of get you a little something? Black Robe says, oh, no. No, you can't do that. No, you will not have need of that in heaven. You will have Jesus there, and you will only need Jesus in heaven. Native American brother looked over at the other one and leaned over and says, I don't think I'm going to Black Robe Heaven. In the Native American mind, the concept of heaven was by virtue of his own culture.
I say.
His heaven, his everlastingness, was defined by virtue of what brought pleasure to him and his family and him and his culture, through his culture. You see? So that's why we have Orun as our concept. You know, we used to have a thing back in the day, in revolutionary days, when we were struggling, it was saying about going to heaven. And I used to tell a lot of them, I said, you know, I don't think I want to go to the white man's heaven, no way. Right. Next thing you know, we have us up there shining shoes and shit. It's going to be the same thing. Because his heaven is going to be his idea.
Right.
And his idea is to enslave me. And see, I kind of had a chip on my shoulder too, you know. I grew up at a time, I remember colored and white water fountains.
I say.
All right, I remember going to sit on the back of the bus. I remember going in the back of places to eat. You know, some of us are that young. Okay? And we remember it. All right?
I say.
And so it gave us another edge. So when we heard these kinds of stories, it kind of like said, okay, it validates this for us. Get rid of the bullshit and come on, let's build something new. All right? But let's keep going now because I want to take y'all through this before we get time. Keep me in terms of the time, all right?
I got you.
Okay? Because I want to make sure we got it going. So, in this cosmology, in this how we view the universe, we've established Olorun, Olodumare, and Orunmila. Now, on this first level, in the heavens, and we always use the circle as a symbol that connects everything to everything. On the first level, for Orunmila, we have the Orisha. The Orisha are the spiritual beings, the essence of the water. Okay? The spirit of the water is Orisha. The spirit of a mountain is Orisha. The spirit of the earth is Orisha. When Europeans first came to Africa and said, oh, they're worshiping many gods, you know? Well, they came to that conclusion out of their own consciousness and understanding. They didn't really ask us what we were doing. They just described it according to their own situation. So they came back and said, oh, yeah, they worship many gods. They don't worship one God. Totally a fallacy. Totally a fallacy. But we do have all of these spiritual entities that we have defined, all right, so that we can understand the nature of these entities and the nature of the entities that we were dealing with in their definition. So we have Orishas on that level, all right? We have nature spirits. They're spirits in nature. And nature spirits are like the same spirits, you know, the ocean. Spirit of the ocean is a nature spirit, you know? Spirit of a tree. You know, the spirit of anything in nature. We have all of those, you know? Orisha, the ancestral spirits. Now, these ancestral spirits, in the Yoruba, we have a concept called Egungun. Egungun is the aspect of being able to deify your ancestors. You know what I mean by deify? Can somebody tell me what deify means? It means to make God-like. You see, your ancestors are made God-like through the process of, in the Yoruba, called Egungun. All right? So that means that our ancestors take on the character of, quote-unquote, the gods. And why wouldn't they? Why would we be sitting there worshiping other images of the God that didn't look like us?
That makes sense.
It's just very plain. It's not, you know, Chinese people, when you go to their temples, they have images of the God. It look like who?
Yeah, like
Chinese people.
Like that.
European people, when you go to Europe, their big temples and tabernacles, all of their gods and angels and everything look like who?
Yeah.
Europeans. You see? So it was the same way with us in Africa, and you see a lot of it in this room.
Oh, yeah.
All right? But what happened to us is that when we didn't know our own cosmology, they demonized these energies and made us think these were the bad things.
Yeah.
You know? David took a word and it took one word and demonized that one word, and it like turned around people's thinking about our whole culture. And that word was voodoo. They made voodoo evil.
I say.
And when they made voodoo evil, what that did, that put a damper on our culture. Because voodoo was us. If you go to West Africa right now, and you go to Benin, and you ask them about voodoo, they'll say, oh yes, come, let us worship voodoo. Because to them, the word voodoo means spirit. It's part of this cosmology up here. What they're working with here.
I say.
All right? The next round of being and spirits. Now I'm going to show you some of the cosmology, because up here everything is metaphysical. In a room it's it's beyond physical. But it exists in our consciousness. All right?
I say.
It exists in our consciousness. All right? So on this one you have more nature spirits. All right? Orisha, Egun, Egun, Egun. Egun are ancestors who haven't been deified. They're just spirits hanging out in cosmos. You know, Uncle Joe and them, you know, Mama Liz and them, you know. But then you got other ancestors like Egungun, like in this one where we said Egungun. Egungun ancestors that have been deified is the Martin Luther Kings,
I say.
the Harriet Tubmans, the ones we've given energy, the ones we've given reverence to. You see? Shaka Zulu, you know, Nzinga, Queen Nzinga, you know. Actually, our leaders became our ancestral gods. They became the deities. You see? They came out of our leadership. You know, who else would represent the gods on earth but the leadership? So, but Egun, down here you also got nature spirits. And in this instance, you got animals, birds, you know, and all of the crustaceans therein, you know, insects and everything. All right? But you got the spirit of these things. Down here, the manifestation of it happens. Human beings on this level. Animals manifest. I put them up here. They're not supposed to be up there. They're supposed to be down here. My bad. My bad. You got nature spirits up here. Egun, nature spirit. Human beings, animals. All on this level. Down here, you have, on this circle, the next circle, that connects with the priesthood. This is where you find your priesthood. P-R-I-E-S-T. Priesthoods, kings and queens, etc. I say etc. because all the people in positions of power in African culture are directly connected to the Egungun, to the Orisha, to the nature spirits. All the people in nature, human beings, are connected to the spirits that are in the ancestor spirits. There's an ancestors here. Yeah, there we go. Ancestors here. Yeah. To the ancestor spirits. Because that's who we are. In heaven, we are ancestors. You see? In heaven, we are ancestors. On earth, we're human beings. In heaven, we are nature spirits. We are animals. The animals are nature spirits, become nature spirits. And you find that in the Native American culture a lot. In the Native American culture, you have a concept called power animals. All right? You even have in astrology, you have reference to the nature of animals. You know, like they'll tell you in a minute, oh, I'm a Taurus the bull. You know, it's the nature of the animal that humans are attaching themselves with. And it's a spiritual thing. So from a cosmological standpoint, it gives you an understanding. Your own understanding gives you something to work with. All right? It gives you something that is defined by you, it's defined of you to work with. Europeans gave us their cosmology. All right? So consequently, we ended up working with Europeans. Their cosmology gave them the advantage. For instance, did y'all know, did anybody here know anybody with real bad hair, nappy hair? Y'all know anybody like that? You know somebody like that? Yeah. Nappy hair is bad hair.
They say to who?
Okay. Now, I was waiting on the rebellion.
Yeah,
That's why I said to who?
to who?
Yeah. Back in the day, we had a whole battle with that.
Ashe.
And I'm going to show you how that was hooked up cosmologically. Because in your cosmological understanding, you have the idea that there are things that are good and things that are what?
Bad.
So then, if you put nappy hair in the bad category,
Right.
you've just changed the cosmology.
Ashe.
This is why it's important to have an understanding of your own cosmology. All right? Because it's out of your own cosmology where the definition of yourself is going to come from. You see? Your own standard of beauty will come from your own cosmology, your own understanding of beauty. If nappy hair is considered bad hair, then you're going to be looking at, oh, that's bad hair, that's ugly. You develop that attitude. That ain't really indigenous of you. If big lips and dark skin is looked upon and looked down, then you develop that as your understanding. So our cosmology has to reflect who we are. Reflect our standards of beauty. Our standards of beauty must reflect who we are. Our goals must reflect who we are. Through our vision of the universe, of how it works. Now, there are a number of other charts in this cosmological thing. I can't do a whole thing on cosmology in just one session. But I'm hoping right now to be able to give you enough to chew on, to make you thirsty, to make you hungry, and make you go ahead and do your research.
Ashe.
Remember that this culture is not a culture of something that we're saying that you need to come follow us.
No.
This culture is a culture without hoping that every brain, every mind in here becomes an incubator for a thought, an incubator for research. Because we are at a point in our culture where we have to re-invoke the ideals of our ancestors back into our normal, common way of thinking. And that means that we have to do the research. In order to do the research, we have to have time, we have to have institutions. Pan-African has been an institution that has helped us tremendously be able to do the research on African culture. So, I'm not standing in front of you right now trying to change your belief system.
No.
I am standing presenting information in front of you, and I want you to take this information and go back to your drawing boards and do the research. I generally tell people, don't believe nothing I say.
Do the research.
Do the research, do the work.
Do the research.
Progress of a people will be progress by virtue of their own ability to do the work.
Ashe.
It's not based on leaders. It's based on people.
Sure.
You see? The civil rights movement wasn't won by Martin Luther King. He didn't win the civil rights movement. The masses of people won the civil rights movement. They had to do something because there were masses of people who had come to a conclusion, had done their research, had done their energy, had taken their energy, said, oh, well, yeah, we got to do this here. The same thing will happen for Africans in America if we do the research relative to our culture. You know? If we start to look at the examples of Africa, look at the examples of Native America, all right? And look how they thought. Not necessarily what they thought. Don't get that confused. Look at how they thought. Like our quest has always been to inspire people on how to think, not necessarily telling you what to think. All right? You don't need to tell you what to think. You got your own mind. Think what you want to think. Think what you think you need to think. But I can suggest structure. I can suggest ideas on how to think. Once we all get that kind of rhythm in our situations, then we will, as a people, are going to make enormous amounts of progress, and you'll see it. All right? We won't even argue about this and that and that and this, because our consciousness will be open. We have to open up our consciousness so that the chains of what slavery put upon us will not influence our decisions. You break the chains first on the mind, then the body will follow. I grew up in the era, in the late 60s and early 70s, where there was a group named Parliament Funkadelic.
Right.
And they put out a tune one time. It blew me away. I was walking down the street with my little phones on, you know, my transistor radio on my side of my head. And they come in, new song by Parliament Funkadelic. Says, free your mind and your ass will follow.
Yeah.
I said, cool. I said, cool, all right, I didn't hear this. You know?
Yeah.
It was the first time someone ever said to me, free my mind. But I thought my mind was free. I said, free from what?
Yeah.
I started investigating. I said, yeah, wait a minute, free my mind, free your mind, and your ass will follow.
You remember one by the impressions of why don't you check out your mind?
Why don't you check out your mind? Yes.
Yeah.
Grew up in that era too. That was,
Yeah.
Curtis is still my main
Oh,
guy. Yeah, Curtis is still my main guy. But see, that was a consciousness, a time and a consciousness.
We were going through.
You see, that we were going through. Now we're going through another time in consciousness where there's an elevation. See, because back in those days, I couldn't have did this workshop on cosmology.
Oh.
You see? Not out in the open, in front of, like they say, in front of God and everybody. I'd have to do it underground. But now we're in a time where this is going to become common knowledge. And the greatest thing I would love to see is that at the next class, some of you come back and say, Bob, I was doing this research, and guess what I found? Yeah, that the Yoruba and Smith, whoa. We hope to inspire more research, more development. We hope to inspire this group becomes a council and begins to understand, begins to address the different issues relative to the community, relative to self. All right? By using the way our ancestors used these thoughts and ideas. Now, I'd also suggest that you could also study the Egyptian creation stories. All right? Because the Egyptian creation stories, the Dogon people of Mali also have wonderful creation stories. Okay? Look at those creation stories. Check out how those thoughts began, how those ideas began. Look at the cosmos, how they viewed the cosmos. It blew Western scientists away that the Dogon, all right, was so deep that they had calculations of stars and planets that Western science didn't even see them yet. Hadn't even seen them. The Dogon knew about Sirius B, even before European technology got a chance to look through their scopes and see it. And then they got in and looked up there and said, oh yeah, you know, they right. Where them niggas get that shit? The Dogon had patterns, had charts of the solar system that we live in. Had patterns and charts of the solar system before Europeans, they were still thinking the world was flat.
Yeah.
So our ancestors had knowledge of and information relative to the cosmos even more than we could ever realize. And I'm going to tell you something. Once you open up that channel of energy to your ancestors, that knowledge comes pouring in. If you ever want your knowledge to come about, open the way to your ancestors. Venerate your ancestors. And I'm going to give you one last bit of piece of information here on this before I stop. The ancestors. DNA. They've been telling us about it. We've been studying about it. We know that it's that code of something that's in our, something that makes us who we are. Where does that DNA come from?
Ancestors.
The sum total of who we are
Is in the DNA.
is in the DNA. All of the DNA come from who?
Ancestors.
Our ancestors. That's why when you go to Ancestry.com, you put that little slobber on there and they send it back there and say, oh yeah, your ancestors come from over here and over there and over here and over there. They figured out how to trace it down now. It is your ancestors. Now, give you another little piece of our woe here. When you venerate your ancestors, the act of venerating your ancestors does what to your ancestry? Revitalize them. And revitalize. In that, remember now, in our cosmology, you can't destroy nothing.
No.
You can't create nor destroy nothing. You can only transform it.
That's it.
When a baby is born and being reborn into this earth, it's a part of that transformation of the soul of the baby. When it dies, you transform and go back into the earth. So in our consciousness, you cannot create anything. So everything that is a part of the recreation of what was. You are the recreation of the knowledge and wisdom of your ancestors. When you venerate your ancestors and that information starts to come to surface again, this makes you become the Martin Luther Kings and the Malcolm X's of the past. You know, this makes you become the kings and the queens and the high priests and priestesses. You know, that knowledge and information becomes a part of you again. And on a spiritual level, you cannot evolve spiritually but by virtue of your ancestors.
There you go.
All through DNA. Study DNA. Let's go ahead and study it. Figure it out. What is that about DNA? What is it about our culture that helps us even more? On a cosmological level, it helps us to know that the dispensation of energy, we had a concept of the heavens. We had a concept of what was in the spiritual world and what was in the mundane world. We call the concept Orun. We call the concept on earth IEA, the earth. We had a concept of that. We had understanding of IEA, what goes on in the world. We had a concept of what goes on in the heavens. Our ancient ancestors, the Egyptians, told us a long time ago, said, as above, what?
So below.
So below. As below, so above. We said, oh, okay. But what it is going on in heaven is the same thing going on down here. That's why that Native American told Black Robe he wasn't going to his heaven.
Something wrong.
Because what was going on earth wasn't going on in his heaven.
Right.
You see? There's also another tribe and group of people that you need to study here in the United States called the Hopi Indians in Arizona. Study everything about the Hopi.
Next to the Mayans.
Yes, they were next to the Mayans.
Next to the Mayans.
You know, the Hopi were a very mystical group of people who, once you start to study these things, you're going to watch and see your own consciousness start to open up. You know? These concepts will free your mind. Your mind will be operating on another level. Things will start to come to you that weren't coming to you before. Understandings will get to you that you didn't understand that before. But now you're getting ready to understand it. We're getting close to that time?
One question, Chief Baba.
You
said that in order to act, how do we go about accessing our ancestors to venerate? Because a lot of them still in the Christian mode and this, that. How do you go about doing that? Would be the question.
Reggie. He's asleep.
He worked last night.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
You sit down, man. What's wrong?
Sister, give me that. I think
So
it's
your question
important.
again?
How do we go about venerating our ancestors to
Okay.
empower
There-
ourselves and them?
There's a number of ways.
Ashe.
All right? There's an African proverb that says, when you call the name of an ancestor, that ancestor does what? Lives again.
Lives again.
Just by calling the name of the ancestor. Thank you, sister. All right? Just by calling the name. So, the concept of venerating is when you hear Baba up here calling the names of ancestors, Montjuba, Malcolm X, Montjuba, you know?
Yeah.
Just by saying the name of your ancestor revitalizes that energy. Okay? Because everything, as we know, is energy, right?
Ashe.
Right.
Okay? Everything is energy. You can't create nor destroy energy. So your ancestors who were in energy field themselves, that energy field still exists.
Ashe.
Yes.
I got a question. Okay, what if when this person was on Earth, they didn't have a positive energy field? Like, what if they was a bad? I don't want to
Doesn't
say
matter.
bad,
That's easy.
but
That's
they was
easy. Easy to
negative
deal
person.
with. Then you do exactly what Baba was doing in his prayer here. You elevate them.
Ashe.
You pray for them.
Yeah, Ashe.
Even if your ancestor, like I had an ancestor, Uncle Leroy, I know Uncle Leon.
We'll have to.
I had an Uncle Leon. He was a twin, right? He was a junkie. But I loved Uncle Leon.
Ancestral prayer.
So when I prayed to my ancestors and I called Uncle Leon, I called Uncle Leon out of that darkness that he was in.
Ashe.
I said, Uncle Leon, you can
Come out.
elevate yourself.
Elevate yourself.
You see?
Okay, so you talk to them positively while they're in the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like you kind of like motivation, like
Absolutely.
spirit motivation. Okay.
Just like if I'm talking to him, I'm talking to you here now.
Baba,
Yes, sir.
okay, now, this is what's getting a little confusing now. You say, as it is above, as it is below, right? Okay, now, what you just mentioned, if you have these ancestors that were negatively oriented here,
Mm-hmm.
and you had someone that you thought the most of,
Right.
now you're going, as above, as below, these same energies are going to be happening
Mm-hmm. In heaven.
above,
They-
and because
they-
they're going to be fighting up there too, right?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. They
Now,
can. It
what,
can
you,
happen.
what you were just saying now, why would you still want to, if you could, elevate this one that you know that was negative here?
Because here's the deal. To describe someone in a singularity is an injustice. For instance, I could say my uncle, I was talking about Uncle Leon, right? My Uncle Leroy, right? Uncle Leon. He was a junkie. So I knew he was a junkie, and I didn't want to perpetuate junkieism, heroinism. I didn't want to call him one. He might mess around and have me trying to be naughty and going to get a fix, So I elevated him, and I would call upon him for the positive side of him. He was a dynamite carpenter.
Okay.
So when I needed information about carpentry, I would call upon him in that light. You see? Because here's the deal. Remember, everything is in duality, so nobody is totally evil.
Right.
Nobody is totally good.
That's true.
You see, we are all fluctuate between the duality of life. That's the bottom line, that's the crux of life. So we have to be careful when we try to define each other in one light. Oh, that's a good person. Oh, he's just so good. He's so good. Then you go downstairs and you see him shooting heroin. You know what I'm saying? You say, oh, I thought he was good. He was good. Oh, she was good. She was the good that she is. But she has the dark side also. So we all have our quote-unquote dark side. So venerating it and working with it is what you have to do. Yes, sir.
Yeah, on that same level they're talking about, we got to remember what happened to our peoples.
Yeah.
So if they died with the negative side or positive side, who caused this problem?
Right.
See, so you just pray for the best, and one of them, because they've been through these changes that
And,
they've
see,
learned about.
and the act of praying for them is the ritual, and we have lots of rituals. We have a ritual that we do. We call our ancestors from the Christian heavens and the Christian hells.
Ashe.
We call them back.
Ashe.
Tell them to come up out of there. Because if they leave this plane of existence, think they're going to a Christian hell, then they may be existing in that consciousness in the spirit realm.
Right.
So we call them out of that. Say, man, come on out of that. And let's go into a room, the abode of the ancestors. In the abode of the ancestors, the concept of salvation is just as real as it right here on earth. So we have to struggle with that aspect of our ancestry. We have to struggle with the aspect of our ancestry that sold us into slavery. I witnessed that when I went to Africa. I was really, really, tied into going to Africa, and I was all excited about going to Africa, get my stuff together, And who do I run into? Families of those who sold our ancestors into slavery. You see? That's what I ran into, point blank. Wasn't no ifs, ands, or buts about it, wasn't no figuring it out. It was that whole I said, oh wow, I got to handle this here now. So I had to deal with myself spiritually, and my social and political consciousness wasn't going to still sit up and perpetuate that. You see? Because I've been a revolutionary all my life, and I'm going to do that the rest of this life and the next one I come and do.
All right.
All right? So I had to work with the energy. So the answer to your question is that we got to work with all these forces and all. There's a struggle going on every level.
Every plane, every level.
Ain't no pie falling out the sky gonna come down here and save us, y'all.
No.
Okay? We are the salvation that we are. We have to approach our own salvation, whether it's on a metaphysical level or a physical level. So when you call on your ancestors, I remember Ashura Toshaway, a lady used to be here, a priestess. She used to have a statement like about that, sister. She used to say, I call on my ancestors of light and progress.
Light and progress.
I call on my other ancestors and offer them the same light and progress. You see? Mm-hmm. So you're still a part of the struggle. Now, when you grow into this culture and you go through things what Baba will make you aware of, all right? You get maybe initiated and somebody becomes a priest or a priestess in here, then you learn things while you're on that journey. You learn different things to do to offset those energies. All right? So we can't teach all of that in one workshop, but we can make you aware of it. Any more questions? All right, I'm sure there are more, and you can ask them later. I'm going to let Baba have his program back now, and I thank you for allowing me to come in front of you and say what I had to say and share with you what we have to share. Ashe?
In the universe, I do pay. Those of you that do not have the ancestral prayer, thanks to IFA and the Orishas and the other Babas, they've created a model. Not what you want, but it's a model prayer. The Christians, they got Our Father prayer, that's a model prayer. Well, let me tell you something. Being a former bishop, ordained elder, and have a doctorate degree in theology, there was no such thing at that time. They did what they called cast out a dafar, and you ask through the oracles. But when the Europeans took the church over, they wanted to set you on another course, so they gave you a thing called praying. Prayer comes where it means to pray upon, take advantage of. Do you follow me? We didn't do no praying because we had a problem. We go to the priest, and they would dafar, cast out, and we get our answers direct. If you study your Bible, everybody, all the prophets and apostles, even King David, when in trouble, they went and called the priest who brought the ephod. They would cast lots and get the answer. No guessing, hoping you got the answer. We had the answer. Baba Payomi is a Gungun priest. He know how to dafar and get answers. How to get yourself back in alignment. But with your ancestors, we can communicate through dafar and talk to Uncle Leroy. We can talk to Aunt Susie or whatever, and they will give us answers direct through the oracles. Once things go through the changes of evolution back through, Uncle Leroy is not bad no more. Why we got this prayer? You need to, if those who want a copy, get a copy. It don't cost you a dime. And I want you to look at it because in one part it says, in the latter part, the beginning says, I offer light and pour libation. That's a sign of respect. I offer light and pour libation with respect, and offer all my ancestors whose name I know, they do not know. There are many we do not know. Hope they'll never really know all our answers do. Can you go back 300 million years and give me all your ancestors? Because we talking about right here, beloveds, go back 300 million years. How old is the blood in your body? Can you tell me how old is your blood? Okay, but I can check your blood and go back through history on you, who your grandmother, and what the disease they have, because the blood, the DNA is the key. Ashe? And we want to reconnect that. We have the power to put all the bad good and the good back where it's supposed to be. Let me tell you something right now. Whether you're aware or not, some people are always late. They have a trouble getting there. I want to make you aware of something. And that is, as the earth is going back to her metamorphosis, her changing, do you not know that what was once north is now south? And what south once was north, and we're about to do it again? NASA already studied that the earth is about to do a flip. And also the sun is doing a flip. Oh, I brought the documentation. I believe in documentation. This kind of conversation. NASA science.org. They're studying right now how that the sun is about to go back to another position. He talked about the earth. It says hidden portals in the earth's magnetic field. There are portals where energy comes through that we communicate through in Yoruba. We talk to the ancestors through those portals. I mean, I read the Bible. They said, don't be afraid. We ain't all you read the Bible. It says in the Bible, being what it was, be careful how you entertain strangers, but some have entertained angels unaware. Ashe? I think that they got here. The book of Job talk about the sons of God ascending and descending. Portals, people. IFA talks about it from top to bottom, how everything comes through certain portals and came here. IFA tells you how to access these things. IFA is the black man's hope for today. Because it makes us go back to get respect, which you lost. Because we don't respect no more. Morals, we lost. Why? Take another man's what? Ideology. Another man's culture. We got to go back and reunite to what? That which belongs to us. Being a Christian minister for many years that I was, I found out the more you talk about Jason, the more powerful he became. Whether you liked him or not, every he uttered that name. The name is mythical, never exists, but you made it real when you start putting energy into it. This table becomes real when you talk about it. We got to go back and straighten things out. I have a copy of the ancestral prayer and what IFA is. I'm not trying to get you to join IFA because you can't join IFA. You can't join. It ain't like going joining the mosque or joining the Mason or joining the church. You cannot join this. You know why you can't join? You can tell me. Tell again. I done told you. But you gotta do what? You gotta what? Reconnect. That's the key. And all of us that are not aware of what we're talking about needs to reconnect. But we've been coming here every third Saturday for 10, 12 months. I want to invite y'all to come back. We showed many of you the uninitiated forms of communication with the four-color cells, how to divine and get answers, because when you go out and you make bad choices because you don't have no guidance. This won't get it. Hope for an answer. Oh, do I get this job? Please, Jesus. Then you walk in there and then tonight, now you're mad at Jesus. All jobs ain't for you. Gotta ask the right question. Not, do I want this job? Is this job for me? Do I want this man? Is this man for me? It's one for me. It helps you not quit making bad choices. But I want you to, today I brought achievement because we as black people in this land, the name is called Turtle Island, which is longer talking Cherokee, also learned that we, at one time, it was called Ife, according to the cosmology Baba Yashabiyah. When he came down, you heard Chief tell a story about putting the sand down and the chicken kicking it all out, and the chameleon walking on it and planting the seed. The word Ife, or the word, Ife means spread out land. This is one of all ours. The whole thing was ours. Somebody came in and cut it up, Say, this is your piece, this is my piece. We as, shall I say, indigenous people, we own nothing because we didn't make it. But we respect all because we don't know everything has spirit and due respect. Ashe? Ashe. And those who want a copy of the ancestral prayer to help you take home, set up your ancestral altar. I'm going to say this as I come, we almost got, we got 45 minutes. Those of you that maybe not my age, but a long time ago when you went to visit Grandma and Amy, they had pictures of the ancestors all through the house. Back in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, you walk in the house, look at the wall, you had all kind of kinfolks all through the house, right? After the 70s, you walk in the house, you had JFK, Martin Luther and Jesus. Took all the ancestors down off the wall, put them in little bags and little books, and hid them out. And now you got MLK, JC, and Martin. Well, go back and dig them out the box, put them back on the wall, take JC down because he don't exist. And you know who JFK was, that's one of the folks, and take him down too. Leave Martin up at the restaurant and begin to what? Regenerate them. So when your child walked in the house and said, Mama, who is this? Huh? Who is this? Who is this? You must be able to tell them. To identify. What I hated the most doing this a number of years ago when you saw you give a child a dog, you give a child a black child a white dog. You just messed him up. I want to say this. I'm in Louisiana, in Tallulah, Louisiana, and I'm writing the second part of the first part of my book, The Other Side of Slavery, the Untold Story. I had a chance to meet a young black man, Lieutenant Colonel Porter Johnson. He bought one of the plantations, Sister Queen Priestess. And then walking through the plantation, he showed me where the slaves was buried. White people built their house on top of them. It's time to Portuguese people. It's time to whip them folks up and let them get them all the hell they can stand. The land was owned by a group of black people called the Natchez Indians. They were black people, now known as Washita. They had the money, they were Washita. The Natchez Indians were prehistoric blacks who owned all this land from New Orleans all the way across. The Empress died a few months ago, the granddaughter of the Empress, who became the Empress. Why am I saying this? We got to call them back up. We got to call all those names back up. We got to give them back that light. Or everybody, if you don't have, please get a copy of this, the Ancestral Healing Prayer, because what you're saying, they need healing. One part of this, I'm going to get my pen to be to read before I close. And I like the latter part. How many of you have this particular prayer we brought out today? You missed because you weren't here. You read it before you know about it. I got calls about you all out of Illinois and Chicago. Said, who that lady was crying on that to read that prayer? I said, that one of the young priestesses. But the latter part addressed what you talked about. The latter part, right here at the end.
In addition, I forgive those ancestors.
First of all, you got to forgive that ancestor
that committed wrongs that have set their generational line, us that are living.
Now wait a minute, you said that he was bad, left out here bad, so we don't look at him right. I've got to forgive that ancestor because he did it because he was dealing on another man's culture and cosmology and idea. He'd been bamboozled, as Malcolm said, he'd been hoodwinked and camel-toed. He didn't have his own mind. I love Dr. Nana Akbar. He had a book called Changing Him of Psychological Slavery. A lot of our folks were hoodwinked. They were duped. They didn't have their mind. They had another man's mind. You know what the funny thing is to take a young puppy, say a young lamb, and put it with a bunch of dogs. What's going to happen, sister? Say it again. Why? He's out of his element, right? So if you take a people out of their element and put them in another element, they're going to what? Act like that's what's around them.
That's right.
And so one day, a big ram walked up to him and said, hey, look, man, you ain't like them. Quit trying to bar. You can't bar. You got to, you understand? Then when he hear him, then he gets out, you know what? You got a point. Let me get up out of here and give my own kind. Yeah. Empower my own self. They did I used it a lot of times when I was pastoring in the church. And I said, you can be conditioned to a situation and you'll stay there. Berkeley University in California took some fleas off a dog, never heard of this, and got a mason jar about this high and put holes in the top of it. Put all them fleas in there. And then they go boop, 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 and finally no boop, boop. They got the addiction because they couldn't get out. They removed the top off the jar. They still wouldn't come out. But one day they messed around and put a, it's called revolutionist, flea in there. He got in there and he jumped up. And they saw him jump up and come back down. No boop, boop. He jumped again. No boop. Next time they all started jumping. They followed what? The revolutionists. They all got out the jar. We are just like that, people. Someone has to ignite the fire in our gut to go back and reclaim what? Who we are. Quit trying to be somebody that you're not and reclaim what you can't do if you don't know where to start. You understand? So what we tell you, don't believe nothing we say and do what? Do the research. Because there's more stories than Adam and Eve out there. A book written by Reverend James Robert Johnson, All the Creation Stories. It's for even if there's a creation story. Look him up, check it out. And tell you what, you'll be surprised. And go online. So all they're going to tell you about, it's just thousands of them out there. Some you ain't never heard of out of the Amazon. They ain't wrote their story yet. Only the Jews of the so-called Western man come up with the concept of an Adam and Eve. And if you study the Hebrew way like I did, the word Adam means blood. Adonai. Eve was no Eve. Huh? It was a name? Lydia. Why the Bible said, and let us make man. They got that from us. All these levels. That's us. When you learn how to go and commit comparisons, see where they borrow stuff from. Get a chance. There's a book written by Graham. It's called Misinterpreted the Bible by Graham. Misinterpreted the Bible by, I've got his first part of the name.
Misconceptions.
Misconception of the Bible by Lloyd Graham. Dad remember to go kick it back in. He tell you that the Westman was incapable of abstract thinking. He had to borrow his cosmology from Eastern man. Everything that the white man had, he has to borrow it and then rearrange it, nickname it, and make it be his. Because he didn't have one. I say, you are the original, so he's trying to copy you and make you think that you ain't real. Ain't that strange? He's known for doing things genetically. What I love about the IFA Bible, and I call it IFA Bible, so I ain't never heard of IFA Bible. I call it a Bible because it contains a lot of the history and how things came to be. The word Bible, the Greek word biblos, which means book. What makes it holy, the holy old dudes in there. See, tell you how the world got started. And the one I really like about him is how the white man came to over the Mari and wanted to make a man that could speak. He been trying to do it for years and still doing it. How many of y'all eat chicken? Come on, chicken eater, come on, don't do me like this.
We do.
Ain't it funny, all chicken going to market is white chickens? And when Mama had chickens, they was all colored kind of chickens on the yard. But every chicken going to market now is what? White. Even the turkeys is white. Genetically, modification, yes ma'am. Yeah.
So when we were talking about,
G?
when we were talking about the second level
Mhm.
in the old room and praying for our ancestors, I'm certain that there's a physical aspect to that in the IEA portion, but I'm a little perplexed as a Melungeon
Okay.
how we you know the phrase the pot calling the kettle black.
I say.
So I'm a little confused as to how I, as an American, kind of pick and choose pieces of my ancestry, being that I am a Melungeon, and there's a chance that I might not be Yoruba, but
Sure.
I could be more Portuguese than Kenyan, or maybe some of my Caucasian ancestors had some of the the positive spirit about our own. And so I'm wondering what the answer is to some of the, I guess, internalized hatred towards 1/3 of my ancestry.
You got it.
That observation is very good, especially for people in a culture like Western culture, whereas we're all mixed with something. All right? If you noticed, references to race are very few in our lectures. There's not a lot of reference to race. IFA is not a tradition based on ethnic reality. IFA is a tradition based upon knowledge and wisdom. So there are European people who come to me all the time for readings, all right? As a matter of fact, almost more Europeans than African Americans, right? Mexican, Cuban, people of different nationalities come to study IFA, because IFA is the wisdom of God. IFA is not culture. It's not the, you said it's not the culture. IFA is the wisdom of God in itself. Now, why do we sometimes put a lot of emphasis on the African side? It's because for so many years, the African side was negated.
Yes.
It was, like for instance, the whole thing about nappy hair that I did, right? We have to redo that consciously in our minds, because we were told for 300 years that nappy hair was bad, so it may take another 150 years of us saying it ain't bad to bring about a balance. You follow me?
Okay, you got
Yes.
that.
Okay.
You got that.
So you can venerate any
That's
aspect
good.
of your ancestors. Like I said, yeah, Shirley used to talk about venerating our ancestors of light and progress. You know, you understand what I'm saying? I didn't say, no, just venerate my African ancestors and leave my European ancestors alone, leave my Native American ancestors out. You know, no, that's not where we're going with this. There is a level of spiritual evolution that humankind has to get to. And that is to see that there's only one race of humans, and that is the human race. You see, we are evolving to that degree. That's why we can even, quote unquote, even mix and everything now. But the repair, the emotional and social, political repair that we are doing for the African is because of what the African went through. You see? Had another race of people gone through 400 years of degradation and destruction, we would have had to repair them also. There'd have to be that repair. That repair would have to be that part. I do a lecture called the 9 Attributes of the Soul. I'll come and do it for y'all one time.
I should.
All right?
I should.
It actually deals with that concept what you're talking about there. It's the ancestral soul. Within your own ancestral soul, there may be all kinds of people in there. You know, and most of us, there are no purebred people in the world now.
No.
We've been mixing for over, what, 100,000 years?
Or better, yeah.
Or better. You see, so DNA, when you bring up DNA, a lot of times you'll find DNA, the only thing that'll be isolated, say in an African American, might be a European genome. You see? I think, who was it just found it? Vanessa Williams, the actress. Found out that some of her people were from Stockholm. You know? Whereas the West African, she had the West African part, then she had the Stockholm part. And so they started to discuss, okay, well, how do you get from Stockholm to West Africa? Thousands of years. You see? Thousands of years of interaction between each other. When the Greek dynasty was going on, Greek men went all over the world. When the African dynasty was going on, do you know we went all the way up into Europe?
All over the world.
We went everywhere. We went all the way over here on this side of the world, even. And everywhere we went, we did the same thing. We had babies. You know?
What the brother tell him? I'm going to go to your heaven country.
We had babies everywhere we went, all over the planet.
That's how
And every culture has done that. So that's why our gene pools are what they are. So but what you do here in terms of the African something is the repair. So feel no way about any other, because we're just repairing what has been disarray.
What I like to say about IFA You got the paper in your hand. Look at number 3 on the paper. Those that have the paper. Elaine, you don't have it. Here you go. Give Elaine one. And the ancestor. Did you give her one? No, we're not doing it. Number 3. What? Can you read it for me?
IFA transcends all the cultures and traditions of all things. Man, animals, plants, rocks, water, wind.
Does it say race of any people? Because it's the spirituality that what? It is the glue that binds everything together. Because when you pull this ship off that you're traveling in, it's just a ship. What's beneath that ship? A spirit. It has no color. Ashe? But it has energy. It has force. It has thought. Right? It has purpose. So when you drop this one and get the other one, it goes on. Ashe? So our problem is hooked up on pigmentation. It ain't about pigmentation. That's the white boys thing. Matter of fact, that was, what's his name? Cunningham and the other German anthropologists who started the race thing and color thing. With us, there is none. It's about spirit. Because when everything's dropped these shells, we all got to live in spirit. That's the key. And what is spirit? Who can tell what spirit is? Come on, you scientists, great minds. What is spirit? What is spirit?
Research.
What is it? Energy and what else? Do me a favor. Blow in your hand. That's spirit. Breath. Breath.
Okay.
And can you see it? Okay.
Okay, so spirits is energy. I'm trying to figure out, do they talk about soul? Like,
remember that word came out of the Bible. You break it all down and go back to spirit. And man became a living soul. That's the so-called thing.
It's the spirit when it's living.
Yeah, it's living in what? A shell. Drop the shell.
You still got the
That's spirit. See?
Okay. So
Okay.
can you repeat that for me one more time?
Okay. When the breath, it says, after Obatala had made mankind, he asked Odumare to breathe into man. Same thing in the Bible, and God breathed in man. The clay became a living soul, right? It became. We all became what? Living soul. Keep on the cat back a little bit further. When you was in your mother's womb, what was you in? Water. Breathing, functioning. But when you came out and you came past the pelvis, you broke through and your head got out and you cleared your mouth and your nostrils and you draw your first what? What took place? He said you now live, but you were living all the time in the water. But now you took on what? A domain in another dimension you came into, and you took on that aspect. You became what now? A living what?
soul.
Entity, soul. Once that leaves, you become what? But you still what? Moving. The spirit leaves.
Let me handle that a little bit for you too. In the Yoruba, there is no word for soul.
There is none.
Okay? The closest thing that we have found that is referred to as the concept of soul is the word "emi."
And me.
Emi.
How you spell that?
E-M-I. Emi. Which literally means breath.
That's it. That's it.
Okay? So when we
So it's
deal
like
with
when the spirit comes into the flesh, into a vessel, that's what the soul is basically.
That's the totality of existence.
basically it's emi, it's breath.
Yeah, that's it.
So once you leave, you just become a spirit again.
Your breath go out to the elements.
That's right.
You become a part of the divine matrix.
So that again.
You know? And so here's the thing about this too. The African consciousness, and as all other native people's consciousness, deified everything.
Everything.
You follow me? God, or the concept of God, was never separate from anything else. It was all what we call interconnected.
Inclusive, yeah.
All right? So when we say spirit, even as opposed to soul, that's because in our Western way of thinking, we learn how to do what?
Separate. And matter.
As opposed to seeing things as one reality. So now when I say soul and spirit, I think together. I don't think separate anymore. All right? And you have to train the self. In other words, in Western culture, we think from left to right. And we should be thinking from right to left. All other native peoples think from right to left. The thought begins in the right hemisphere of the brain. The right hemisphere of the brain is the hemisphere of the brain that gives you the concept of totality, that everything is a totality. The right hemisphere of the brain sees everything in this room as one reality. The left hemisphere of the brain sees every individual thing in this room as separate. So consequently, if you begin your thought processes in being separate, then you are, okay, I got to put this with that over there, I got to put this with that over there, and you know, and then that's what, next thing you know, that's what you're arguing about. Yeah. But listen to me now, it is a metaphysical practice to reorient yourself to think from right to left. When we write Odu Ifa, we're marking the Odus on the Oponi Ifa. We write them from right to left. You see, because that is the process of thinking that we're using. Books in the third world or the so-called other world are written from right to left. Yes, sir. Welcome.
Spirit and soul are Germanic words. When we use etymology in our teaching, those are Germanic words. That come from the Germanic race of people. Those are not our words that we use. So the only people that read from left to right is the Germanic race of people called Magog and Gog, and these signs and symbols came out of the ancient serpent lord. So the language that we communicating in is the wrong language for you to understand anything, because the human being, which is the colored man, versus the people, the human being that mixed their seed with the Anunnakis, who became the Germanic race of people. So the Germanic race of people is not a human being, because human means colored man. And so you're under their teaching, because right now as we speak, the children of Japheth, who was once human being, but 50,000 years ago they mixed their seed with the Anunnakis, became Neanderthals, and we can trace their history, and they become a kind of man that is part of mankind, and you up under their school of thoughts, because the mind is what? It's a school of thoughts that ain't got nothing to do with the brain. And you taught this from a baby, and now it's in your gene pools.
That's what governs our way of processing information. We're trying to get back there to go back, like you said, not what to think, but how to think. Schools will teach you not what to think. That's indoctrination. Teach you how to think, how to process, and we all have been caught up in that misconception about things. Make us look at ourselves different. If you cannot embrace yourself, you can't embrace nobody else. I say, because the greatest person you meet in the morning you see in the mirror, that's the greatest person on the planet. I say. So we have to understand. Yeah, got another question?
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I asked you the question about the soul and the spirit, and he got off into the
another
actual
area
etymology, but it was good.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, that's all interconnected. That's how it's all interconnected. We're trying to get back to the whole of ourselves. We've been so divided. Back to the whole of ourselves. As we get ready to come to a close, one thing I want y'all to know, and we're going to share it with you. Chief is here. Those that want to find out, now what I like about Ifa is, what is your name, baby? Jennifer. What's the name? What's the name of your family name?
Last name.
Daniel? Yeah. Okay. Now, when you came, you was given that name. But what was the original name of your ancestor before was given that name, Daniel? See, in Ifa, in Ifa, when we do what they call a Woods reading, it will go back from the oracles, which is older than Orumila, goes back and it will bring up your people's name. What it was called when they were, how we put it, Chief, when they was in our native state, indigenous state. Because your name was changed when you got over here. And know one thing, when you got over here, everything was changed to nicknames. You don't want to have the original name. You got to go back and do research. Why they say go back and check your ancestors. That you still didn't on a name was given you. That's not your ancestral name. What was your name when you came on the boat or the plane or how they came? Something when how you got here? You know, on the back of Jackass, that was a name. That's what they took them when they got over here to do business. Many of them adopted names to do business. That's not the original name. That's not what's in your DNA. Well, I don't read this DNA thing. Go and get your blood and all this stuff. And well, my name was Jim. Uncle Jack Ball was my cousin. No. The DNA don't give you no name. It gives you location. They're matching DNA. But IFA will give you a name. How do I know? I had it done back in February. I went back to what they name is that? That shows ownership. I want to drop that ownership. So I went back and I had the chief to do what they call a roots reading. Look up on the internet. They go back and they dial file, and that would be an Itah, is that right? Will come up and tell you who your people were. And they will check the names. And if I would tell you whether that name is your people's name or not. Mine came back and I'm so excited to know. Off my Baba side. IFA go bulu. What that mean? IFA will save the city. You will be a priest. I've been all my days. I've been a priest all my days. I've always been in the priesthood. They didn't even know that was in my makeup. And many folks today, because you don't know, you're operating in the wrong career fields while you're struggling. Ashe? See, you're trying to be something that you're not. And it's hard for you, so you're struggling trying to be a mechanic, you're supposed to be a doctor. You understand? But when you go get that roots reading, and thanks to the chief, they can do that.
What about those that are trying to be nothing?
And they probably tell them not to be nothing. Because ain't nobody nothing, because you just lost. You're lost in the wilderness. No, if you're here, you are something, and you got a purpose, but you need to know what that is. And IFA will tell you what it is. Nobody will tell you that. I can tell you that because I've been through them. This man right here, my brother, we studied all really for one side a year. Everything from A to Z, we studied it for 1 year. We didn't work with nobody. And we studied all the religions. We got a book called The Encyclopedia of Religions. This thick, this wide. But I found there was nothing in that about IFA. Nothing in the book about IFA.
It's a way of life.
I understand what I'm saying. Everybody really take about how it got started and what it's all about. There's nothing in that book about IFA. Yeah, because this is what? A way of life. Not a religion. It's a way of life. Ashe? Ashe. I want to thank you for coming out. If you want to share something to help us pay, you want to take care of the coverage for the place, something. Chief, my Washington brother. Yes, sir, Ashe.
How?
Okay.
One of the, in IFA, IFA is one of the oldest ancient cultural traditions in what we call modern Kemet. It is more to the west coast of Kemet, but you will find that the fabric is woven throughout what we call modern day in translation Africa. You can go all the way back to the Gnostic roots of Akibalan. You'll find it with the Twa. You will find it in the Akan nation. You know, you will find it, but it's really ancient. I think the first book I got when I was at SC was IFA.
IFA. And IFA is, you know, like I said, and you find it in everything, some similarities in everything that's dealing with cultural religion. You find IFA there somewhere.
That's in the east now. That ain't in the west.
No.
We're not going to get up on that dialogue. We got to wrap it up.
It's the Neanderthal.
So what we going to
go? Neanderthal troglodyte, nigga, my brother.
We don't want to get off the brother.
You come from the east.
Yeah, we want to get around the dollar. We enjoy that thing. What I'm saying, the reason I brought Chief in today because some of my brother, some of us. A lot of when I come, I offer the opportunity to have a reading done to find out what old research is working with your head, or you got a situation you want to be addressed. So today I brought in the chief that he can help you with that. And I got a sister Elaine, another young lady, she's from Greece, and this medium thing has been in her family over 300 some odd years. So I brought people in today that if you got questions you want answers for, they're here to help you. Ashe? That way I don't want to work me into a place I got to try to drive home. I brought help. I got help. So if you got any question about any situation that you're dealing with, or you want to check out and find out what I can do about this, well, I got issues, and issues deal with everybody. I have the people on here today to help you with those questions and things. Ashe? Our Pastor Lane is here. I got Chief Yeoman is here. That we're here to help, and we'll let people give us your names and everything, and we will contact you for the next meeting. But give us the name. So you want to see? Okay.
Hey, Matt, you got something you can pass out to the side?
They can sign. We need a sign sheet, baby.
Yeah, sign-in sheet.
Get a sign-in sheet.
And those people who sign in on the sheet, if they want to get any file readings, just use an asterisk or something beside it with your telephone number and we can contact you.
Yeah, let's do that because everybody needs it. You need a checker. You know, you need a checker. You need a copy of the ancestral prayer. Let's see. Somebody get my ancestral prayer.
Here it is. I gave it to her.
I would like to.
When you gonna do it?
Yeah, well, no,
You gonna do it
that's
today or you gonna do it the next time you come in?
Let,
Do it today. I mean,
How much it cost?
it's 40.
All right.
Reggie, to take this downstairs and tell the woman 10 copies off and what it charges. Huh? Yeah, 2 more who wanted it, an ancestral. All right, ancestral. I want you to have one, please, so you can talk to it. Yeah, and then I'll, Reggie, go get the brother, excuse me, bro, could you make me 10 copies and send them, 5 of each so we match them up and show me what the charge is. Okay, I got the brother here that's gonna, did you get one? When you talk to a cousin that was acting up, you can straighten him out.
Yeah, I need this.
So you can straighten him out. All right, Chief.
Can everybody maybe stand up and maybe like form a circle, hold hands a minute?
Yeah, sure.
I like to always do this particular song and chant as we go. It's a Yoruba song that says, yeah, get up in that line, bro. Come on up in there.
I'm cool.
Let him stay cool.
Let me ball.
Okay.
I stay in my own energy.
All right.
The prayer says, the song says, Yishe Oluwa, Kole Bajeyo. Yishe Oluwa, Kole Bajeyo. Which means, in the name of the Almighty, the work of the Almighty shall continue forever and forever. All right, the song goes like this. Yishe Oluwa, Kole Bajeyo. Yishe Oluwa, Kole Bajeyo. Do it again. Yishe Oluwa, Kole Bajeyo. Yishe Oluwa, Kole Bajeyo. Kole Bajeyo. Kole Bajeyo. Kole Bajeyo. Kole Bajeyo. Yishe Oluwa, Kole Bajeyo. Yishe Oluwa, Kole Bajeyo. Olodumare Ajuba, Bobo Eko Oluwa, Tiambelo se Olodumare, Baye Tonu, Mojuba Orumila, Mojuba Olojo Oni, Mojuba Bobo Orisha, Mojuba Bobo Ekongo. To all of our ancestors, we thank you for allowing us to be able to do these sacred ceremonies. Guide us and protect us and strengthen us against everything that will stop us from doing that which is our destiny. So please bless our Baba, bless Mama, bless all of those who have traveled to come here today. Bless each and every question that is here today, hoping that that question will be answered. Give us the strength and power to answer all of our questions and to live our destiny in peace and harmony. In the name of the Olodumare, in the name of all the Orisha, in the name of all of our ancestors. Everybody say Ashe.
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 Ashe.